Hey, it's me, Joe from Joe's Sleep and Sundown Journey, and I'm really excited to be here. Literally. Hey, it's me, Joe from Joe's Sleep and Sundown Journey. And I'm really
We're off to a great start, aren't we? all fun and games, isn't it? Anyway, how you doing today, Joe? Let's pretend we haven't just had a conversation for about 20 minutes and talk about stuff.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, it's really lovely to see you. It seems like ages. Um, it seems like ages since I saw you, but no, I'm really looking forward to today. I am really excited. I am a little bit tired. We know that I'm suffering a little bit with a few health issues today, but I'm so glad that we're doing this one today and we're coming out. I'm coming out. I want the world to know. No, we're coming out. So I don't know if any of you guess, those of you that have been watching my channel in the last couple of weeks, you know that love has been in the air. And many people have assumed it was either Nightbot or Miss Mary. Miss Mary is always the love of my life. Some put it out there that it's Jurgen Klopp. But it is in fact our good friend here, Jonathan Carnivore. So Jonathan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, it's me, Carnivore Muscle, aka Carnivore Muscle, aka Jonathan. How's everyone doing today? Thank you everyone for joining today in the chat if you're in here right now. Both to my subscribers and also my lovely companion and collaborator, the lovely, wonderful Joe from Joe's Sleep and Slim Down Journey. I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, we've got some questions today, but anyone in the chat that currently has any right now, feel free to chime in, answer them with us if you want. But we're going to sort of collaborate and just chat about stuff and hopefully share our insights, experiences, our delightful meeting through the GLP-1 and Carnivore world, and get into stuff. So yeah, there we go.
We're opening up the questions to you guys. But we know you're going to be respectful, right? We know you're not going to be asking us anything crazy. So if there's anything that's crazy, I'm going to just say straight up it's crazy. I do not want to unleash the beast on you. And so I will make sure that I'm policing the questions. Is that okay, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's probably more sensible. I don't know how well you're good at policing questions, but we'll see and see what comes up. But it'll be quite entertaining regardless. And thank you very much as well for people that have voted for me in the chat right now. I see some familiar names: Sandy, Jolene, Rick, my good friend. Lots of people whose names I probably can't read or pronounce from this distance from the screen. And these lights, by the way, guys, are very bright. So apologies if I do miss any questions out or comments that pop up, but I'm going to try and get through them as much as possible. I'll be pressing the buttons, and Joe's going to be asking the questions. And hopefully we'll have a good, fun time.
Lovely. I'm going to go through and just say hi to the wonderful people I know in the chat. So we've got, of course, Stealth Health India. That's Himani. Hey, Himani, you brought my mind, Himani. She is one of our moderators, so she's going to make sure that anyone asking inappropriate questions, you will answer to Himani. It will be a fun stream, Rick. It will be, I promise you, to answer any questions that you ask. We've got Grant on, Grant's faithful GLP-1 journey. Grant, Lord Grant, the Earl of Campbell. Lovely to see you, Grant. You guys were great on the Round Man Set Bound men's mentality, men's health mentality panel. Jonathan, if you've not seen that one already, I really urge you to go and watch that one. It's a fantastic space of fellas that are just finding out how to improve their lives and do it for the right reasons, because you guys, you fellas are important to us. Whether your husbands, yes, you're important to us, Jonathan. Whether your husbands, brothers, fathers, sons, uncles, nephews, you mean the absolute world to us, and we want to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. So that is a wonderful space. Check it out. I'll probably put a link to it actually in the video description. We've got Marjorie. Marjorie is all the way from Scotland and she does some amazing poems. It's lovely to see you, Marjorie. Marjorie's looking fantastic, Jonathan. She's on a GLP-1 journey. We have Cookie in the house. I'm every woman. Cookie is our Shaka Khan. So Cookie's saying, Joe, hearts, and she's waving to you, Carnivore. You'll get to know Cookie. Cookie is an absolute riot. She's wonderful. We've got Lee. Oh my goodness, Lee. Anfield Road Layout in the loft. Lovely to see you, Lee. I cannot wait for you to finish editing your latest vlog. And I'll see you. We've got Sandy. Hi, beautiful Joe. Hi, Jonathan. I really want to sing Sandy's song. Why can I not sing Sandy's song? I will sing it a little bit later. Wondering what's going off with my my camera at the moment. It seems to be... Oh, it's because of Miss Mary. Of course, it's Miss Mary. She's trying to figure out who to focus on.
Meow.
Miss Mary does like Jonathan, but she's feeling a little bit neglected. Jolene says that I would definitely be voting for you, Jonathan. Jolene is fabulous. She's also suffers with a number of chronic illness conditions, like fibromyalgia that we've got. So she definitely understands our struggle. And I'm sure she'll have some great questions for us as well. So be sure to ask us some lovely questions. So I'm going to start with a question for you, Jonathan. Tell us, let's have a look. The first question I'm going to ask you is, what does strength mean when your nervous system doesn't cooperate?
Oh, I mean, strength is it's a subjective term, isn't it? It means different things, to different people, with different perspectives. For some people watching this right now, strength might mean getting up off the toilet to stick the TV on, to put the stream on, to put YouTube on. Some people, it might be like me, sitting in this chair, on recliner on loads of cushions. For other people, it might just be a simple thing of, I don't know, doing what Rick does in the chat, which means cycling all the way across town to pick up some deals from the shops, to get some groceries, some food, some big packs of meat, which he does very often. Just a shout out to my friend Rick, and that's Charge and Mopar. I'm going to try and find his comment in the chat if he's still on here. He actually does some videos which are, I'm saying he kind of makes them personally for me in a sense. So when I was younger, and I say younger, I mean like a couple of years ago, I was a bit healthy, a bit fitter, a bit more able. I could cycle around everywhere. I need to go to the gym, to the shops, whatever. I used to enjoy that. I could, like, you know, the wind breezing through my beard a little bit. Because I used to love cycling everywhere. That's what I used to do when I was like younger. But I can't do that anymore. So what he does is he sticks his phone like that. I don't know if his phone's this good, but he's certainly got an iPhone, which is very cool. And he sticks it in his pocket, in his shirt pocket, and he just records and talks as he's cycling. And he does loads of these videos each week, and I struggle to keep up. I download every single one of them, get a like on all of them. And what he does is basically just says, you know, this is me talking about something I've noticed today or some experience I've had, talking about his life. And he's got a very interesting life for someone that basically has been following a carnivore diet for over 40 years. He lives in Florida in the US, and his whole thing is anti-influencer, which is pretty interesting. So he doesn't make content for the sake of clicks. He makes content for the sake of people that watch the content, you know, for individuals like me. And I always enjoy hearing his stories and his chats, and just seeing him sort of talk about his local community. Makes some very interesting sort of comments, but
because I asked you.
I'm detracting for the question. Hashtag autism.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get back to it. Yeah. Strength. I mean, strength to me is doing the same thing every single day, not letting up. And it sounds a bit bizarre, like, you know, strength to do everything the same every day. Yeah. A lot of things are challenging for me, and I'm sure people in the chat as well. Like I mentioned earlier, like people with different chronic health issues. For me, it's a case of how much can I do the same thing over and over and over again to get the outcome I want. For me, that's the discipline side of it. So the discipline and strength seem to be intertwined and closely associated in terms of like their context and meaning to me. So when people talk about strength, I never really think much about the physical side of it. which is bizarre because my YouTube channel name is Carnivore Muscle. But for me, strength it's a character trait more than a physical trait. But that's just me. I mean, that's what interested me about Jo was, I guess, her character traits. You don't get to this sort of position in life where you're sort of making regular content without being strong, and sometimes being strong as well can influence others. So people that don't know about Jo's journey, she's lost a shit ton of weight. She's done it off her own back using a carnivore diet, and she also uses GLP-1s. And also people say about GLP-1s being like a cop-out or a cheat, and it's like, well, no, it's not a cheat, is it? You still have to do the work. You still have to put the food in the oven or in the grill. You still got to do this effort side of it yourself. You still got to do the effort side of it as in not eating certain foods. And Jo, while she doesn't follow what I'd call like 100% carnivore diet, she still follows a diet which is, in my opinion, very compatible with her goals, and she's able to stick to it, sustain it for a long period of time. And she probably doesn't have as many treats as I do, but you know, I'm in a different stage of my my weight loss journey or weight gain journey at the moment. I'm stuffing myself full of food, but like this, for example, full of Pepsi Max Tropical. Jo doesn't have that. She drinks a lot more sensible things than I do.
Water.
But
stay hydrated.
Water. Please. Yeah. So that's what strength means to me. I mean, did you want to answer that question for yourself, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. For many of you who know my journey, and know that I was on my deathbed, I was struggling to breathe. I couldn't walk. I was struggling to sleep. My heart was just struggling. My heart's still struggling. But with all of those things, I had hope. I had hope that something good was this way coming. And it sure did. And I think with the GLP-1, that the thing that I'm finding with the GLP-1 is it allows me to, so I've been carnivore for 10 years and I've been doing 1 meal a day for 3 years. It's 4 years soon, 4 years from April. But what I was struggling with was inflammation, and the inflammation was also coming from the fact that I wasn't sleeping. Well, now I'm sleeping. The GLP-1 is handling the inflammation, and then the carnivore and the 1 meal a day is handling the food choices. So that's why I've lost 111 pounds in just over 9 months. Although the last 3 weeks, the weight hasn't really moved anyway. But at the same time, I've not been feeling very well the last 3 weeks. So I think that doesn't help as well. We find, I know Jolene will say this as well, is that we do suffer with the water spikes, the water retention spikes whenever we're feeling unwell. Jonathan, could you just elaborate on what your chronic conditions are before I get to the next question?
Sure, yeah. This will probably surprise a lot of people because I'm one of those awful people that don't look like they suffer in the way that they do of different conditions, which is double-edged sword. Helpful means I can present myself and appear normal, but very unhelpful when it comes to actually explaining things to people because they don't see it. You know, it's not like I've got obvious things. I've got scars on my body, loads of scars, but they don't really speak the story. So I'll just briefly go over it. So I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue at the age of 14, which means things get really tiring and I've got to be very organized. Very, very, very organized. And Jo's managed to spot that and work around that and work with me on that, which is really cool. So I appreciate that, Jo. Other things as well. So I had a failed spine fusion surgery about 3 years ago that left me with a condition called CRPS type 2, which is a multifaceted condition which affects your nervous system and is probably easily the most painful condition in the world. It's a real bastard to live with. And I say that deliberately because it is a real bastard. It is really fucking shit. But I'm still here over a year, or nearly a year later than I anticipated, which is all thanks to the Carnivore community online. So I'm very thankful for that. And there's people in the chat right now like George who contribute towards that. So that's George Goodenough who's in the chat, and his name might pop up on the screen a little bit as well. The other conditions I live with are autism, so autistic spectrum disorder, not Asperger's syndrome. That is not anymore. There's no longer a diagnosable condition under the DSM-5 guidelines. Effectively, if you have autism, you have autism. It's just the the traits or symptoms you display can be very different. I'm fortunate in that I can communicate very well compared to a lot of autistic people, which makes me, by default, the carnivore autistic person in this space. So I have to advocate a lot harder than a lot of other people for my condition, not just myself, but for other people as well. There's very few autistic people in the carnivore community, so I try to make content around that and speak openly about that and how the carnivore diet can actually improve symptoms of that. Other things as well that I live with, other than a lot of battle scars from different surgeries. I mean, currently undergoing a diagnosis potentially for a functional neurological disorder, which all these things, guys, I think they're just related to pain other than autism, which is a neurological defect. So that means that I live a very specific way, and I have to live a very specific way. It's a condition you have to survive. And affects all of my nervous system. So the sensory side of things, the mental side of things, the fatigue side of things, sleep. I live a very dysfunctional life by what people might consider. But I'm able to sort of work around it and use my brain, which I happen to inherited from my lovely family, to sort of work around things. So I make content around that as well, resources online, ebooks, specifically to help people like me or similar to me, because I didn't have that help. I had to find that help. I had to find that information myself. So I'm thankful to people again in the carnivore community like Professor Bart Kay, Harry Sopanos, DC from DC Rebuilding on YouTube, Pim Johnson, heaps of other people, Anthony Chafee. So I sit in quite a unique position. I can access a lot of these people's expertise and help me, and in turn I can pass that forward and share my knowledge and experience. So that's what I'm kind of glad for. But yeah, that's the conditions that I live with. There's probably a heap more, but under umbrella terms, that's what you can kind of say. So I live with the perfect trifecta of pain, neurological disease, and fatigue and autism. So yeah.
Thank you for explaining, Jonathan, and thanks for being so open and transparent about it. I think that helps people to get a better understanding of how you answer these next questions that we've got. Before we get on to questions, I just want to say,
Joe, you look amazing in the orange. Definitely.
It's red. It's red, but thank you. Okay, so Christina, my beautiful friend from Perth, Australia, she's in Southampton. She has just boarded the cruise ship and it leaves the dock at 5 p.m. So bon voyage to Christina. And we've got confirmation that Marjorie's PIP tribunal is at 2 p.m. on Monday. She's worried about it. She's got to do it all again. But honestly, Marjorie, from a chronic illness perspective, you and I both know what living with chronic illness is all about. You know that on the PIP tribunal that there are also people who understand it, but you do have to make sure you explain it and how it affects you on a daily basis. Sending you all the love in the world. Hopefully you can get through that with a good outcome. We've got a question, Jonathan. Question is from Himani at 4:38. How's your V-Day virtual date?
I'd like to put something up on the screen if I may. I'm asking you, it's my bloody screen. Get bent. There we go.
Jonathan, you're so cute.
There we go. Is that one? Yeah. So yeah, it went splendidly. Joe had a whole meal that was that big. I had 2 meals in one because I think I fell asleep when I had to get some food down. But effectively, Joe was off rambling about something, and I was just like, Probably matches what it'd be in real time anyway. So yeah, I mean, what did you have? I had salmon, beef, and chicken, and a lot of stuff. You had salmon, yeah. What did Miss Mary have?
She had salmon as well. Miss Mary was feeling the ambiance because Jonathan had done a lot of work to make sure that the ambiance was really cute. And I keep saying cute, but I'm saying cute because I feel like that every time I think about it. It was so lovely. I can't say anymore because I'm blushing. I'm blushing as well, but I'm also wanted to say thank you to Jolene. Jolene has sent us a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Jolene. Jolene, you are
Thank you very much.
wonderful. You are wonderful. And Jolene also suffers with a trifecta of troublesome ailments. So we're sending all our blessings, our positive vibes, our good energy over to you, Jolene. And thank you so much for being a huge part of this community. We was watching Evelyn's live earlier, weren't we, Jonathan?
Yeah.
I was not watching, apparently. I didn't introduce myself, but Jonathan had said hi, and I think I joined the same time Jonathan did. I was like, they're going to be sick of us two joining together. So I heard all the things that everyone was saying to Jonathan about the two of us. So I did hear that, but I also heard that Jolene is in fact the phenomenal supporter and cheerleader across the GLP-1 community. Jolene is an angel. She's an angel, and I adore you dearly. Okay, so let's have a look. What other questions have we got? I can see George is saying, to my favourite people on a Friday afternoon. What a treat. So here's a great question for you, Jonathan. Christina, 442. We've got to answer this question before the ship leaves the docks. I have a question about creatine. I only take 3 grams on days I work out, about 3 times a week. Would you recommend it be taken every day? And if not, why?
Good question. The cognitive benefits has been used and studied up to about 20 grams per day. If you're a lighter individual, a young lady, perhaps a small young lady, maybe 10, 15 grams. In the case of a carnivore diet, if that is what you're following, you probably don't need that nearly that much. But yeah, if you're just an average person following a diet, perhaps on a GLP-1 journey, whole unprocessed foods, 3 grams a day will be beneficial for sure. Ideally every day. Some people have stomach discomforts, they might spread it out throughout the day. If I'm honest, if you're using it for the sake of athletic performance, it is virtually useless unless your goal is to gain weight for the sake of powerlifting, in which case it might add maybe half a kilo, maybe up to 2 kilos to your body weight, just through more intracellular muscular hydration. Outside of that, it's useful for top end performance in athleticism, such as sprinting, and high intensity training in a resistance training sort of fashion in a gym, perhaps. But it's only real use in that instance as if you're doing top end strength sports or athleticism. So you're sprinting, you're lifting a very heavy weight, but it's only in the last few repetitions that actually is viable as a compatible human resource or substrate for energetic demands. But outside of that, you probably don't need to supplement it. But it's cheap enough that you can use it, and it has been very well studied in scientific literature. So yeah, if that's what you're taking, Karen, taking it, I might suggest just taking it every day over 3 times a week. It doesn't really matter what time of day you take it either. So just have it if it's in your diet. It doesn't matter. Whenever, pre or post workout, or during the day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, it doesn't matter at all. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. What do you reckon, Joe? Do you use it or nah?
I don't use it, but I eat a lot of meat, so I don't use it. I also have chronic kidney disease, so I have to be aware of creatinine. I don't know if it's got some sort of derivative. I don't know. You're the science guy. Tell me about creatine and creatinine.
Well, I happen to be an absolute world expert on kidney function nowadays. What you'll find, Joe, is it'll basically produce a false positive in your blood test, i.e., creatine can turn or convert into creatinine in the body, which is excreted through the kidneys. Is it harmful? No, it's just an enzymatic marker, meaning you've taken something in and it's chucked something out. Funnily enough, actually, without getting into too much individual personal detail, a family member was recently in hospital overnight, and they had, I believe, elevated CK or creatinine kinase levels within their blood. That's usually only indicated as a problem if a person is not resistance training or has not been doing that within the same sort of time span that they had the blood test done and they found an elevated CK marker. What I would say is that if you're someone like Joe and that you're regularly perhaps having kidney tests, it can read a false positive, as in it'll show up in your urine or blood. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a byproduct. So Ideally, if you've got too much in your body will just excrete it. But for some people, it can be a bit taxing, perhaps. Although it's a non-issue for the vast majority of people, in my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of my point of view on that one.
Fantastic. Just looking through the comments, I can see we've had lots of lovely more people joining, like Keisha. We've had Laurie join. Laurie has said, "Hey, Jonathan, has anyone ever told you you are handsome?"
My mum.
Well,
no, she didn't say that at all.
I tell him, Laurie. I tell him every day.
Joe told me that a few times today, I think. I just go, yeah, thumbs up. I just go with it. Don't argue with the woman.
Don't argue with the woman is the right answer, Jonathan. Okay, we've got another question for you. This is from Grant. This is Lord Grant, Earl of Campbell. He asks, what does the BSc stand for on your name, Jonathan? Also, Jo is a great lady right here. Thank you, Grant.
BSc. It stands for Bachelor of Science. Some people put it in their names that basically emphasize that someone's got a degree in something. Me personally, I only put it in my name because when I say something clever on the screen, people often will comment below and say, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're not qualified." And it's like, well, actually, I am. And here's my Instagram. Here's me collecting my degree on stage in front of thousands of people, maybe 500 people. And here's a picture of my certificate. And if you don't like it, what more can I do to prove it? So yeah, it's basically just a way of saying I do have experience in something or understanding of something. And I'm accredited under a certain body, which happens to be a bachelor's degree of science. There's a few other people in our space with similar degrees. My degree is in human nutrition. Coach Stephen Thomas, my friend, he's a blood expert, so a phlebotomist kind of expert kind of person. He has lots of expertise in other things like weight loss and diabetes management as well. He also has a BSc. His is in, I believe, health management or public health, I believe. Other people, in terms of the carnivore space online, I'm one of about 3 people who can officially call themselves a nutritionist, as in a proper nutritionist, not a Wednesday afternoon basket weaving certificate in something which cost them about 20 quid online and they did in like 2 hours. So yeah, my degree did take about 3 years, and that's just what I did. The other people are Professor Bart Kay and Pim Johnson. They're the other people that hold a nutrition degree in the carnivore space online. Other than that, that's about it for us. But yeah.
Can I ask you, Jonathan, why have you chosen carnivore as somebody who is proficient in understanding nutrition?
It's the most logical explanation of creating a means or supply in nutrient quality of food and choice to maximize health and performance outcomes. The reason why is a lot of reasons why, but basically we adapted over probably about, depends who you ask, so it's a subjective kind of science, I guess, in some senses. We adapted over about 3.5 million years to basically consume a carnivorous diet for the majority of that time. Our current processed food diet, which is probably spanning maybe over the last 50, 60, 70 years, thanks to the introduction of Tesco's ready meals, by the way, guys. That's where it all started. And tinned food, things like that. But if we look at the grand scheme of things as a human species, we're looking at 99.9% of that time that we've been around being carnivorous. Evidence for what I claim comes from the fact that we have archaeological, geographical remains from all over the globe, proving beyond doubt through carbon N15 isotope data that our diet has been constituted predominantly of around 70 to 80% ruminant meat, which means beef, lamb, things like that. The remaining 30% being from anything like eggs, fish, different seafoods, things like that, dairy perhaps. But it's quite individual. Joe and I had a conversation about that before, about dairy and things like that. So it may be that people from the Northern Hemisphere, like myself, so I have quite a strong Scandinavian heritage. People around that time, my ancestors, 100 years back, would have consumed a lot of dairy. So I'd have consumed by default a proportion of my diet through dairy. Now, people that have intolerances to it, predominantly black people, just by nature of what they could grow, what they could find, in their area at that time, their geographical native origin, I guess you could say. Basically, they didn't have much dairy, so they don't have a tolerance to it. So they've not built up a way to garner nutrition from that particular food. But there are some instances in certain tribes, in the African tribes. So, for example, the Maasai, they might have consumed blood and milk as part of their ancestral diet. So they can contribute a lot of their diet from dairy food, dairy format, basically. So that's largely it. Yeah.
Can I go on just to explain? For me, the reason why I do carnivore is purely because complex carbs do a number on my body. So I can't process fructose, lactose, oligosaccharides, fructans, sugar alcohols, and another one. I can't remember what the other one is.
Gluten, maybe?
Gluten, of course, it's gluten. And that's, remember, I'm just getting away from a number of chronic illnesses that are affected by inflammation. And one of the inflammation things that it started off was the IBS. So that's why I do carnivore. Carnivore wasn't the answer for me alone. Remember, I was still doing carnivore for 10 years and still getting worse, but that was because I had a hormonal issue with the primary aldosteronism, which has done a number on a number of my organs, including my heart. So I still have a problematic heart, problematic joints and muscles. But now I'm on a GLP-1 that's helping with the inflammation. Then that's certainly helping me to see the difference that I should be able to see with carnivore. One of the great things that happens in the GLP-1 community, Jonathan, is that we've already identified that protein is great for us. So we should prioritize protein. And we should stay hydrated. In fact, can you explain it? Before you explain this, can I very quickly say, Miss Mary, Louise has just sent us a super chat. Right, Miss Mary's got a number of people that she thinks are fabulous. One is Purple Bellflower, the other is Louise, and she's eating right now. Sorry, Louise, but thank you so much, Louise, for sending that super sticker. Both Louise and I, we also walk with a cane. Louise also suffers with a chronic illness, and she's not feeling so great either at the moment. So can we all send some positive energy, some good vibes over to Louise over in the West Midlands of the UK? And, you know, thank you so much, Louise, for being a part of the community. And Miss Mary, of course, adores you. So can I ask you then, Jonathan, why is water so important for people who are either on a weight loss journey or body recompositioning?
Okay, so by default of being a human being, we follow our instincts. You know, we eat to satiety, we drink to thirst, we salt to taste. Problem is with processed foods, we have a hyper, I guess you could say, over a surplus or too much processed food, which means oftentimes too much salt. But we don't sort of pair that with enough water to flush the salt through. So we have, in effect, a more difficult time dealing with the challenge of too much salt in our body. So we can get more inflammation. Some of us, that can be exacerbated if we've got other health issues as well. The thing about water is it does, especially in a large bolus or a lot of, basically, it means that too much processed food in the gut. We have about 400 milliliter capacity in our gut at any given time without stretching the mechanoreceptors or causing mechanoreceptors to respond by allowing the gut to get bigger, so we can consume more food. When we consume more water, we allow those mechanoreceptors to pick up and identify how much we have in our gut at that time, which means we have the satiety signal. But the problem is, for a lot of us, we don't always match that with appropriate foods. So if we then have more water, we bypass that mechanism of our brain. We realize, okay, well, I've had enough to drink now or eat or consume and whatever it happens to be. Water doesn't contain any nutritive value outside of hydration aspects and different elements, minerals, things like that. So in effect, it is a null food, but it means that we're not as likely to overeat. But the same thing is also true for protein. But the thing is, protein does have nutrient value. It provides us with amino acids. It can be used as an energy substrate. We use it to create hormones. We need it to produce neurotransmitters, all the tissues from our body, hair, skin, nails, muscles, things like that, recovery, everything like that. So effectively, I prefer people to focus more on protein than allow people to drink to thirst to fill that gap. There's been studies done on various people and on insects as well, funny enough, and they found something like 40% of the nutritive value of people's diets coming from protein can reduce the impact of excess hunger. So effectively, if you look at your plate per se, you want about at least 40% of that coming from an animal protein source. That means that you're going to get, one, the mechanoreceptors stretching the gut, so it signals to the brain that you eat enough food. They also going to get the nutrient density side of it, because protein is the most nutrient dense food there is. We just have to look at a chart or comparison of a ribeye steak or some eggs or some salmon or some milk, and compare that to lettuce, for example. You can eat a shit ton of lettuce, guys, but you're not going to be truly satiated. The same is true with popcorn. Like, how many people out there have had, like, been to cinema? You know, you have a giant, thing of popcorn. You then swig a load of Pepsi Max or whatever drink you happen to have with it. Okay, you're full, but in terms of actual nutrient quality, sod all. You're just getting carbohydrates, salt, sugar, maybe if there's sugar in the popcorn itself, but you're not getting vitamins and minerals, at least not to an appreciable degree. So yes, it's important to be hydrated, but secondarily to the protein. And by default of having more protein in your diet, you also consume more water, because a steak will contain some water within it. So animal foods are the ultimate way to bypass a lot of these hunger signals that people have, and that people on a GLP-1 journey would by default be sort of looking more closely at. So that's my standpoint. So I'd say actually protein is more important than water.
Fantastic. So I've been looking through the comments. There's got some fantastic people who've still joined us. So we've got like Mish, we've got Grace. Everyone's saying lovely things about us, Jonathan. Yvette's asked you a real important question. 452. What does he think about Miss Mary? It is a must that she is at the forefront.
She's always there. Whenever I call up Joe calls me, I just hear like, oh, like a purring, or I hear meow. Well, first thing in the morning, Miss Mary might be downstairs or something. Joe might be in bed or something. Then I'd hear like, Miss Mary. Sometimes she'll come up, sometimes she won't. Yeah.
Sometimes she shouts me to come down.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's important people with chronic health issues to have a companion of some sort, whether it be a person or a pet. I've got a dog called George. He's a Labradoodle. He's become a bit of a medical assistance dog recently without even really realizing. He can pick up if I'm in pain. He can pick up if I'm energetic. He knows that if I'm energetic or if I do a certain thing in a certain routine, he's likely to be walked. So he'll get ready. He'll sort of prime himself. He'll be like jumping up and down and say, yes, I want to walk. You take me for a walk, Then he'll like look towards the lead sort of thing. If I'm sat at the bottom of the step and put my shoes on, for example, he'll sit by the side of me once I put his lead on. Then what we'll do, he'll go like that, signal to me, put your hand on my back, then use me as a way, like an arm, to sort of lift him up so he can leverage me up when I'm getting up and after put my shoes on. So yeah, he's a very thoughtful dog, and I guess Miss Mary is kind of the same. So I tried to think of it from that perspective rather than, oh, it's just Joe's bloody cat. It's like, well, no, it's a bit more than that, So yeah, that's
She's
my
will,
thought.
Jonathan. She's my will.
Oh,
she
yeah.
knows it. We've got another question here. This is a great one from Jolene at 453. Jonathan, how does the pain affect your sleep?
It does enormously, Jolene. I'm not someone that fucks around when it comes to sleep.
Jonathan, you've got to watch your language. This is a family show.
That's all right. How old's Miss Mary?
She's 11.
Well, it's not too bad. I was watching Goblet of Fire at that age. It'd be all right.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, so yeah, because of sleep, I mean, it does tremendously. I typically wake up 5 times throughout the night, and that'll be noticed through me waking up in pain. I can't out supplement or out drug my pain basically most of the time. I could be like a lot of people out there who look for the easy way out in some senses and just say, oh, I'm going to take a load of meds and just go to sleep. That's not an option for me. I like to be productive throughout the day as much as I possibly can be. So I try to minimize my medication use as much as possible. Going back to sleep can often be very challenging. The problem with the healthcare system in this country is they tackle sleep from the wrong avenue. People aren't using appropriate light exposure late at night. They're staring at screens. They're talking late on the phone at night. Maybe they're eating massive meals before bed. They're drinking too much water before bed. They're not focusing too much on sleep. They just think about daytime sleep, but don't realize there's a bit in between you have to be quite mindful of. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. For me, I use a massive combination of medications, peptides, and supplements to get me to sleep each night. I cycle through them very carefully and use a very scientific approach based on best practices, subjective and objective markers that I can possibly track. So, for example, my smartwatch, I'll know, okay, my heart rate is a certain amount. I'm not going to get a fruitful sleep or restful sleep if my heart rate is too high. Okay, I need to do box breathing before bed. That's just one example.
What's box breathing?
Box breathing is a method used by Navy SEALs in order to regulate breathing levels or breath rate during stressful situations to prevent more stress. So some people might use that alongside something like the Wim Hof method, or cold exposure or exercise to get more out of what they're trying to do at that point in time. The way people do it typically is 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold again. So the idea is 4, 4, 4, 4, like a box. And it's very effective. And some people can actually do a breath hold, which my friend DC Rebuilding from Australia does. And that effectively, what I'm not an expert in terms of breathing by any means, but what it effectively explains is that your body doesn't really become hypoxic beyond up to a certain point in time. So the idea that we have to be taking in oxygen all the time is a bit of a myth. We do need oxygen to survive. I'm not saying we don't. But what I'm saying is we don't need nearly as much as what we do. It's more about what we do with that oxygen that's more important. So he can do a very long breath hold and use that to reduce stress. And you kind of work from the inside out. So a lot of people look from, I have a stressful life, I must avoid these situations. But you can also control what's coming from the inside out as well. So how your body perceives and reacts to that certain stress. So if you can teach your body to realize that lower oxygen level in the blood is not necessarily a bad thing, then you can manage times when your body goes into a bit of a spiral. Perhaps you have a panic attack. You can effectively reduce stress that way as well. So that's a useful way to sort of get around that sort of thing.
Can I clarify on that one though, Jonathan? When you're saying less oxygen in the blood, we're thinking more acutely or temporarily, aren't you? Because for me, I know that one of the big problems that I had this time last year was I only had 86% oxygen in the blood. And today I've just measured it and I'm at 93%, which is great, but it's still nowhere near 100%. So they normally say if it's 95%, then that's anything less than 95% is not good. So you're not saying that we purposely want to have lower blood oxygen. You're saying just for the time of stress.
Yeah, that's right. So during times of stress, your body will lower oxygen levels by default of your body's reaction to the stress. It's trying to increase cortisol. So your blood vessels restrict, your blood pressure goes up, you become quicker at thinking, things become more agile. But up to a certain point, that stress becomes overstress. That overstress can then impact your appetite, how you sleep, how you feel, how you deal with the world around you, and how your perception changes. So The idea is to reduce that stress by kind of building up a hormetic or an adaptive response to it. So then, therefore, you no longer, or you perceive that stress as a lesser evil kind of thing.
Excellent. So I'm just noticing we've got some great more people in the chat. I see Miss Nikki, and Miss Nikki, she's a similar coach to me. Coach Mean Reen. So hi, Coach. Now, Jonathan, Coach Mean Reen, she's a fabulous woman over in the States. She's a big girl like us, but she's juicy. But you know what? That woman can work out better than anyone I know. She's getting all of us big girls to be doing more of the resistance training, more calisthenics, more workouts, more, maybe a bit more cardio, and she does it with such good sense of humor. So with that said, can I ask you about the fact that you're a bodybuilder? How are you a bodybuilder with a condition like CRPS and chronic fatigue? How do you manage bodybuilding around those chronic conditions?
Okay, so as my health got worse, I started to track things more. So effectively had this ginormous spreadsheet that would make academics scream, believe it or not. So I had every single physical, objective and subjective metric I could possibly have on myself at a given time. In that, I had, for example, the number of sets I could do in the gym each week. So the number of times I could do an exercise each time in the week. And now each exercise that I perform will have a certain debt on the body. Now, does my body adapt to that debt or not? Yes or no? As a bodybuilder, the idea is to continue to adapt over time so you build up more muscle. So that stressor becomes less of a stressor. Then it's a never-ending spiral. You're always trying to adapt to it. But the problem is people often overtrain. They don't measure these markers. They don't look at the whole thing holistically. And they just think the more they do, the better they get, which isn't true. So, for example, now I hold probably the most muscle ever held on my body at this point in time, despite severe chronic illness. And that's just through being more calculated. So I do what I refer to, and my friend Professor Bart K refers to as a minimal effective dose, or the minimal exposure. So what is the least amount I have to do to get the most result? Work smarter, not harder, comes to mind. And I'm sure a lot of people out there probably get surprised by that. And everyone always says to me, "Oh, Jonathan, you must be in the gym hours each day." Each day, I wish. I love going to the gym. The gym for me is a massive pain inhibitor. It's one of the few ways I get to experience a bit of relief each day. One of the few things I enjoy that I can say meaningfully reduces pain. So it's a form of central inhibition. The idea that an autistic person perhaps has a fidget spinner, for example, it reduces the sensory output by focusing that input to one direct thing. So that's the way I manage it effectively through training. So it works through a number of different mechanisms. My main focus on bodybuilding is actually through recovery. You're only as good as the amount that you can recover from. You can't get better if you're not recovering from it. In the gym, when you're running on a treadmill, when you're building up your muscles, training, lifting heavy weights, you're getting worse. Your body's in a debt. So you've got to think of it like a hole. You're trying to get yourself out of that hole, build up a bit of a layer, then dig another hole, then build up that layer, so you get better over time. But people don't think of it that way. They just think of more. Problem is, if you go to the gym and spend 10 hours a day in the gym, you do 20 hours a day in the gym, you do 24 hours a day in the gym, you don't see bodybuilders out there doing 24 hours a day in the gym. You don't sleep. So that's why recovery is much more important than training itself, in my opinion. Yes, you are limited by the amount of muscle you can accrue over a period of time, by the intensity level and effort that you can train at, but only if you can recover from it. So that's kind of my point in terms of that. So yeah, I think that kind of covers the question.
Great answer. So for those of you who may not know, Jonathan and I have just started dating. So that's why we're coming out to tell folk, because there's no real reason to hide it. And also many of you have guessed, so you've guessed. What are you putting on now? Is this some ambience music?
Ambience.
Okay, so I want to. There's a question here. It's about chronic illness. Has chronic illness made you more emotionally direct? Jonathan, do you want to answer that one first?
Sure. I'd say so. Yeah. Especially as an autistic individual, like Joe, I couldn't speak for the first few years of my life. I had speech and language therapy. Speaking for me does not come naturally. It's very much a scripted process. Obviously, people that I'm comfortable with, I can talk more directly with. I can say what's on my mind, but it's not without some level of anxiety, especially if I'm new to someone. So that's how I live my life most days. Is I anticipate things happening. For example, I get on a bus. What are they going to ask me on a bus? Hello, you all right? Where do you want to go to? Oh, I want to go to the town. Okay, that's £3, please. Da-da-da. That's a scripted process. I know what's going to happen for each step of that process. Where I struggle is things that aren't scripted. I don't have any change on me. What do I say? So through life experiences, you pick up, oh, I'm very sorry, I don't have any change on me. Do you think you could just do me a favor and let me on the bus? So things like that. Things like that to me do not come naturally. I have to often think about these things, and the amount of times in a day I have to use AI just to get through a situation like that is absurd. So that's kind of where I stand on that kind of thing. And I'm going to read your question again. Bear with me.
It was about emotional directness.
Yes, emotionally direct. So sometimes you have to just say to people, oh, I can't manage this. I am struggling with this. And if you can word it and frame it in a correct way, people will be understanding of that in most situations. Not always. So you've got to be quite mindful and careful that you don't overshare or misexplain what you're experiencing, because a lot of times you might say, oh, I'm in a situation on the bus. Oh, I can't get on the bus. Why won't you let me on the bus? You've got to sort of manage that as an individual, because you get into these spirals. I can't get on the bus, therefore I can't pick up my shopping, therefore I can't eat the food, or that means I'm not going to be hungry, that means I'm not going to sleep very well, which means all these things go through like a flow chart of events. I'm just using a very obvious example here, but you've got to think how that might relate to someone emotionally as well. So that might mean I don't understand how you said that phrase. That came across very strong. But what could be is that the other person's mimicking my attitude towards them, when really my emotional display isn't quite appropriate by normative means. So it's not that I'm emotionally charged at someone, but it means I have to be very mindful of how the wording comes across. And it's still something I struggle with now. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers the question.
It kind of does, but I'm going to elaborate on it, if you don't mind.
Do it.
So one of the things that we know, for example, is that my health is getting much better. My health transformations become so much more visibly obvious. However, I still have a massive problem with my heart. And as such, I remember, Jonathan, you were saying to me that the heart only beats for a limited amount of beats. And my heart beats just base level at 117 beats per minute. So I have got a problem with my heart. I'm saying this with all honesty and sincerity, folks. I'm not going to be around forever. And I'm not going to be around for as long as like 63 or something like that. So I've not got that long. And I'm saying that knowing that life is blessed, life is wonderful. But that also means that life who you choose life with and people you spend time with and where you put their energy is so important. So one thing that, Jonathan, I hope you don't mind me saying this, right? Jonathan pursued me, right? And the reason why I say that, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Jonathan, is because a few months ago, probably about a month ago, I was on Dee Dee's, she interviewed me and I'm like, not wasting any time with fellas. I've not got enough time to be wasting, so I'm not going to be wasting any time on fellas. Didn't see any sort of love happening on my rising, and I didn't really care for it. But one thing that Jonathan has done is he's such a nice person. We all know Jonathan. I can see Kimberly, Pelish Mike, Sandy, you all know Jonathan. And he's a lovely fella, isn't he? But one thing he's been really, really good at is explaining his intentions. And so we've had the questions and we've had the, this, I'm not going to be here for long, we're in different places. But his intentions are strong, and that level of emotional directness, that the things that you've told me about what you want from life and how they mirror what I want from life is one of the reasons why we are dating. He's also fabulously handsome. We could see that. Sorry, Jonathan. But no, I think it is. I think part of having a chronic illness means that you have to be better at communicating what you want, what you need, what you can and can't do, what even energies. I mean, one of the big things, and Jonathan, again, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, we are pretty transparent, aren't we, now? We're putting it all out there. But one of the big things that we're worrying about is when we meet physically, because I'm still struggling with the heart thing. I'm still struggling to move places without it impacting my heart and getting the palpitations. So it's like, well, how are we going to do that? But they're questions that we're looking at and answering together, because we're having those questions raised. And that's what I like about this new form of dating that seems to be happening. I can see Evelyn is on the chat now, so she's driving but listening. So Evelyn, I know that you sent us your blessings, but it's one of the things that there doesn't seem to be any game playing, because we haven't got time for games. But also, Jonathan doesn't have the inclination. I like a game, but I'm not very good at game playing, so I like the way Jonathan is. Yeah, there. That's my my answer. And I see Angie's here. Right, Jonathan. Angie is my sister. She's not my real sister, but she could be, because she is also a very handsome woman. And like we've already explained, my dad is a handsome man, so she could be my sister. But she's across the other end of the world. But she says she's made it alive. Hey, beautiful sis, how are you? Doing really well. Raquel wants to make sure that we're not announcing that there's a pregnancy or anything, Jonathan. So Raquel, do not worry, there's not a pregnancy. We've not met yet. We're still getting to the idea of how we're going to physically meet. So yeah, it's lovely to see folks on here. Now I've got another question for you, Jonathan. When do you tell someone about and I'm just looking at the time, and I know you struggle to sit in the chair, so I think this might in fact be our last question, but I think it'd be a really good question for you to answer for anyone else. Like we've got several people on here as well with chronic conditions. When do you tell someone about a chronic condition that you have? Do you before or after you start getting feelings?
I'd say before. In my situation, it does dominate my life. It's not. I mean, my followers know who I am completely. A lot of people in the chat right now have been following me for months, if not years. Rick, for example, at Charging Mobile, he's known me for 3 or 4 years now, easily. They've seen me regress in my current state. When you spend 20 hours a day in your life lying flat on your bed, the 4 hours a day you can do anything at all for, and I mean anything. So what people do when they're watching this right now, I can do 4 hours of that a day on average, in a given span of time, 4 hours. It's very hard for me to not be transparent about that, because, oh, Jonathan, we've been talking today for an hour. Oh, Jonathan, we're talking today for 2 hours. Then self-care goes down. My beard might grow. I might look a bit like bit haggard sort of thing, I might, I don't know, forget to shower that day or something. I don't know, whatever it happens to be. Then other people start to notice. Then if you see people, oh, Jonathan, you're not wearing clean clothes today, or something like that, it becomes very obvious. You can see visually this person is not looking after themselves. So that's kind of how I can come across very specific and deliberate when I say to people, this is what I live with, this is how I deal with things. And sometimes it can inspire people, sometimes it can detract people. But I think it's always important to be honest, really, because at the end of the day, what do they say? You know, in it for a long time, not a good time, sort of thing. Well, I'll be lucky to have either of those, this kind of point in time. So I've got to sort of count my blessings in a sense and manage each day and just be as effective as I can, and also not feel guilty for either. And Joe and I share that common ground in that we both understand we have our limitations and our strengths. Our strengths are actually quite similar. We're both very proactive people with the time we have and the abilities that we do have. We're both, well, maybe more Joe sometimes. We're both quite emotionally intelligent, and also quite intelligent in our sense of our understanding of our health and how to make the best decisions each day. Hence why Joe's lost over 100 pounds, and I'm a bodybuilder that steps on stage against people that aren't disabled and somehow managed to beat the crap out of them senseless. I say that and it sounds arrogant, but I do take a lot of pride in that. And anyone that knows me, especially for a long period of time, will understand why. As your body regresses as mine has, and just like my physical abilities in the state, I've had to be very mindful about what I do, where I spend time. And Joe's been very considerate of that, and she understands. So I think that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I think, as you say, I think it's important that people know your truth. You don't have to overshare, but if there's somebody who you want them to get you, I don't think you need to hide anything. And I'm a massive advocate for diverse ability. In my last job, I was like the code deputy for the diverse abilities employment group. And I think diverse abilities just mean we do things differently. And I think it's really important that if people want to get to know you, they need to understand how you work and how you operate. So don't ever think anything about chronic conditions is something that we should be feeling ashamed of, because it certainly isn't. The things that we have to do, like I know that Jonathan explained that I was still in bed earlier because I was still fighting off a flare-up, and I think by then it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, that's how I have to get through life sometimes. I'm not ashamed of it. That's how I am, Joe. So I think it's really important for people with chronic conditions to feel that they can be authentic, to know that there's people out there that are on the same wavelength, and they've got that shared, connected understanding, connected experience. And dare I say it, there's still a chance of loving things when you've got some sort of chronic conditions. Just as you say, be who you are. That person is gorgeous. That's glorious and blessed. And there's George letting us know that your back's hurting. So I don't know. Shall we bring it to a close, Jonathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight some people in a chat, just because they've obviously offered their time to be here. The thing is, I'm a bit like you, Joe. I'm one person with very limited time and very limited energy. But there's people out there who offer their time and their energy to support me. If that's just liking this video, here's the official liking this video bit. If they're not already liked it, please do, and also go to Joe's channel and subscribe to her as well. I believe you'll find her name somewhere if I can find the blimmin' thing. I'm not very good at this, guys. I haven't been on StreamYard much recently, but yeah, Joe's Sleep and Slim Down, so you can find her on that, which is on the screen there somewhere out there. So yeah, but yeah, so the people I wanted to just highlight, obviously, on this chat, everyone that's on the chat has commented now. I do appreciate your support. They come up from time to time in my comment section or emails or WhatsApp messages, and it does mean a lot. And you think someone out there over the other side of the world, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 miles away, is thinking of me and wishing me well. So that's what keeps me going. And I know Joe doesn't like me bringing this up, but the 27th of March last year, that was my death day. I wasn't meant to be here now. And anything beyond that is a bonus. I'm in the fucking bonus round. I'm in the end game, and now I'm the bit where it's a little bit extra. This is the fun bit. This is the bit where I get to experience life a bit differently, and in some ways be a bit more selfish sometimes, but also be a bit more giving sometimes, because I know some people are also approaching that end game in their life and their bonus round. So I'm just glad to be here to share that bonus round with people like Joe and all my friends in the chat that have joined me right now. And yeah, and certainly just wanted to say as well, there is one lady in the chat who's one of my clients. I don't say it's just because she's one of my clients, but her name is Kimberly Russell. She is on Instagram and Facebook. She has a very interesting health story, a bit different to mine, but she does live with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, joint disorders. She's had issues for skin. She's on a weight loss journey herself. Her before and afters are incredible, absolutely incredible. And it's awe-inspiring to know that someone out there in a different situation than I am is still experiencing life in a bit more challenging way compared to most people, but they're in that challenge and they're actually relishing it. They're devouring every fucking ounce of difficulty and spitting out success. And that for me is awe-inspiring, like I just said. So I do encourage people to follow and support other people just like that. And don't just look at me and think, oh, I'm doing this and it's hard and life's pity and all sort of crap. No, there's lots of people like us, many people like us out there. So if someone else's story resonates with you, please follow them, support them, so they can go on rambles like I have just now and say thank you. So
and with that, I am going to bring it to a close, but before I do, just from the support element, Jonathan has got to the second stage of Mr. Health and Fitness 2026. You can either go to his channel. If you're going to go to his channel, please subscribe to his channel. But also there's a link in the live chat. I think it's pinned on mine. And please just go and vote for him. And I think it's a free vote, isn't it, Jonathan? No one has to pay anything.
Yes, you get a free vote, guys. All you have to do is have a Facebook profile, which I understand for a lot of you is very difficult, with Facebook being the way it is nowadays. I understand, guys, believe me, I'm not a big fan of social media either. But if you have a Facebook account, you can vote. You can also buy votes as well. That money doesn't go to me, but it does go to a charitable fund, which is for a cancer research and support kind of charity. So regardless of what you do, whether you vote for me for free or if you buy some votes, everyone benefits basically. And if you got some spare change, it does help. My friend Kimberly is also on that challenge as well. And basically the idea is to find Mr. Health and Fitness and also Mrs. Health and Fitness 2026. And I must say, the guy that's beating me right now in my category, in my league, pisses me off, guys. Really pisses me off. He should not be beating me. But yeah, see if you can vote for me. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Pounds, isn't he?
Yeah, it is a bit of a joke that I think this guy's been very shifty with the system, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'd like to win this, and any money that I do generate from it in terms of like the $20,000 winning fund will be put and invested back into my YouTube channel, allow me to make more content like this, make things more sustainable for me so I can actually pump out more information, put my brain to good use. So that's why a lot of people follow me, for the content and information I put out, not just for the perhaps inspirational story. So yeah, like Joe said, if you can vote for me, it'd be greatly appreciated. And it means it also spare a bit of cash for me to get Miss Mary some cat treats, which she'll benefit massively from. So definitely don't miss out.
Okay, folks, it was so lovely to have you join and for us to come out and reveal ourselves to you. I could see, I did say I was going to sing for Sandy, but I don't think she's here anymore. So I'm going to let folks go. Thank you all so much for being here. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. It's my nephew's birthday this Saturday, so if he's out there, happy birthday, Lewis. Lewis has vetted Jonathan. Lewis has given Jonathan the all clear, so we're good to go. Okay, you guys take care. Jonathan, I'm going to let you go so you can get out of that chair.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.